Um, the 62006 Necro build with the Life Blast, as far as I'm aware, that is not the best of your. That's not the highest DPS build. All right. So Ranger. I am not super experienced with Ranger, so forgive me. I do not have very many hours played on this Ranger, so I'm gonna have to keep it brief and just go over the stuff as I know. When we get to professions that I'm better on, I'll be able to give you better answers. Um, so for the Ranger, I recommend Sword, Warhorn, and Greatsword. There's other offhands you can use. Dagger offhand is also pretty good. I don't even have the skills unlocked, as you can see. Tells you how much I've played my Ranger. But for the most part, Warhorn's kind of like your bread and butter because it has a blast finisher, and it has a skill that you can use as you're going into combat that does pretty significant damage. Um, Sword, the sword auto attack is the highest DPS thing that a Ranger can be doing. It's pretty significantly good. Um, the other skills, Hornet's Leap is kind of blah, but it's an evade. Works, Serpent Strike, Evasive Roll. So the plan with Ranger Sword Auto Attack is not to let it kill you. It's pretty dangerous. So that's why I recommend Greatsword on swap. When you get to situations where you don't want to push a boss, you need to max melee, you can switch to Greatsword. If you are in a situation where you know dodging is going to be trouble, you can use a Greatsword. The drawback is the Ranger Greatsword is super low DPS. The Ranger Greatsword is bad. It's like 17% worse DPS I calculated than the one-handed sword. You basically only want to use this if you need it to survive. Honestly, there's no reason to do Ranger Greatsword unless you need it to survive, but or you're in a particular situation where you can't utilize the sword auto attack for whatever. As far as skills go, Healing Spring's a pretty good heal. It cures conditions. It heals for a decent amount, and it's a water field. Sick'em, it's good to use at the start of the fight. You pump out more damage with your pet, and your pet does a significant amount of damage. Frost Spirit is like the bread and butter. This is one of the main reasons why you bring the Ranger. You cast Frost Spirit, and you get the Frost Spirit buff. It is a 70% chance to do 10% bonus damage per hit. Despite what people will tell you, there's no cooldown on that. It always works, even if you hit quite a few times. What it works out to be is a 7% DPS boost for your whole party. It's one of the single most powerful utility skills in the game. Quickening Zephyr, it's kind of like a default. You can trade Quickening Zephyr out with whatever you want, but the 6 seconds of quickness at the start of a fight is really, really strong. Rampage's one can be whatever elite you want, but it's decent. Fury, swiftness, stability. You share boons with your pet with this build, so he gets it as well. And anyway, that's it for Ranger stuff. Going to the build. The build I prefer to run is a little bit different than what Brazil uses. My understanding is that Brazil uses 30 in power for Remorseless, and I think to regain your opening strike whenever you kill a foe. And I think the reason that you do that is to stack up Vuln when you're killing trash mobs, but I don't know. I don't particularly find these two traits compelling. I am a much bigger fan of this with two-handed training. So we'll go through the traits. The opening strike causes Vuln, 5 stacks of Vuln. It's always good to start the fight out with Vuln. Steady Focus, a 10% damage increase while your endurance is full. The one good thing I will say about the Ranger is that the one-handed sword has evades, and if you use the dagger offhand, you have another evade. So you can do a lot of damage, and keeping this up by you never have to dodge really. You can just use your weapon skills to evade. And so this trait's pretty good 10% always boost. Pets have opening strike, so between this one and this one, you'll have 10 stacks of vuln at the start of the fight. And then Spotter, this is the number 2 reason why you bring a ranger to a party. Spotter is a 7% chance to crit for every person in your party, which works out to be something like a 3 to 4% total team DPS boost. So when you consider Frost Spirit together with Spotter, you're buffing your whole party by quite a bit. So a ranger is a very valuable member of every party to bring along. Going down to skirmishing, Pet's prowess. Pets have an increased critical damage by 30%. It's pretty powerful. Furious Grip, useless. Companion's Might. Critical hits grant might to your pet. This is so strong. You can keep your pet pretty much locked at 25 stacks of might, and your pet's DPS will be a significant portion of your DPS. Hunter's Tactics, deal 10% damage more when flanking. Flanking basically means that you're standing behind the boss, as if Spoonite here was the boss. You want to be behind, to the side, behind, just anywhere but the front arc. It's straight DPS boost. You can't go wrong with that. So down in Nature Magic, this is the trait that you want to take that will buff your Frost Spirit to improve the Frost Spirit's chances to proc. It's one of the keys to the Ranger being useful in PvE. Fortifying Bond, boons you get are shared with your pet. This is super good. When your team stacks might before a fight, your pet will get the might and all the other good stuff, and so your pet will do pretty considerable DPS as well. Two-hand training, because I do every now and then swap to Greatsword. I want two-handed training. There's other choices, obviously. I don't know. Spirits Unbound is popular, so that the Frost Spirit will follow you around. How that works. And the Ranger or the Spirit follows you around. Pretty good. So that's basically it. Like I said, I'm not super experienced with the Ranger, but as I understand it, this is a pretty decent balance setup if you don't want to go to 30 in marksmanship. Otherwise, the other things that as I understand, is that you want felines as your pets for bosses, because they do the most single target damage, and they can stack might with their roar. Pets. No, I don't, because I've hardly played this character. But the other option is to take a Drake, and because Drakes cleave, and so when you're fighting trash mobs, Drake's cleaving. Key says, oh yeah, Strength of Spirit is really powerful. Vitality converted to power. Yeah, that's pretty huge. So yeah, it's probably better actually than than the other one, than two-hand training. Yeah, that's way better. Yeah, I'm bad, and I don't know anything about Rangers. But anyway, so that's Ranger. There's better guides out there, obviously, but this is just a brief overview. Sam asks, can Rangers skip phase 3 with offhand axe against Lupicus? I would be quite surprised if Rangers could skip phase 3 without like godlike RNG. The phase 3 skip for Lupicus now is pretty rough for a Ranger to do. I think even Mesmers would have trouble with it. Mesmers can do it especially with seaweed salad food, but for a Ranger you don't get to move, and so it would be even harder. So that's it for Ranger. I'm going to move on to things I know a little bit better.